good? Gentlemen here, everyone set? Excellent. Thumbs up from City TV. All right, well, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me for my monthly media briefing. This is where I'd like to highlight our administration's efforts to address some of the top issues in our city, give a preview of what's happening in the month ahead, and then, of course, answer any questions that you all may have. Joining me this morning are San Diego City Police Chief David Nislight, as well as James Carter, the Deputy Director of our city's Homelessness Strategies and Solutions Department. And that's where I'd like to begin this morning. As many of you know, our city's first safe sleeping site for people currently living in tent encampments is now up and running. We had originally intended for this site to open on July the 1st at the 20th and B Operations Yard, but it opened last Thursday, June 29th. Since then, we have had new clients arriving on a daily basis, and our operator, Dreams for Change, is working to get these clients the services they need to help get them back up on their feet. As of yesterday, we have enrolled 19 individuals, and they're using 13 tents. All the residents are adults so far. Similar to other shelters that we have, we are in the middle of a ramp-up period. Dreams for Change expects to enroll roughly 3 people per day during this ramp-up period. The benefit of this, as explained by the site's program manager, is that it gives clients a chance to build trust among the community, a few people at a time, meaning that the community that is not being overwhelmed by new members in a very short period of time. Tents are being set up as new clients are enrolled. I'll say that the clients are helping to improve the program by giving us the feedback on what they need to be successful. The program manager is holding weekly meetings at the site to set expectations for residents as well as to solicit their feedback. Currently, the safe sleeping site at 20th and B includes a daily light breakfast and a hot dinner, portable restrooms and hand washing stations, several canopies over picnic-style tables with seating that is both smoking and non-smoking. We have plenty of cold water, as well as phone charging stations and case management services. As we work to ramp up and provide more on-site services, people there are being transported to shower and laundry facilities as needed. All of this adds up to a marked improvement for these individuals above the conditions they were experiencing when they were encamping on sidewalks. It is safer, it is cleaner, it is healthier, it is more appropriate and more humane, and it's far better access to the services that actually end individuals' homelessness. I'm pleased with the progress that we're making to get this site open and operational. And I'm pleased by the responsiveness of individuals experiencing homelessness who are accepting offers to go to the safe sleeping site. I'm optimistic by their interest, and I'm optimistic about our ability to continue to expand services there, as well as the upcoming O-Lot, which will come online in the coming months. I want to transition to another hot topic in our city for my administration, which is fixing streets. Next week, the City Council will consider our street preservation ordinance. This ordinance requires those who are performing trench work in our city streets to restore them to their original condition and to do so more quickly and to foot the entire bill for the long-term impacts of their trenching. This will put an end to the common practice of excavating our city streets and then leaving them in substandard condition for San Diegans to deal with. As I've said before, it's a very simple and common sense concept. If you break it, you must fix it. This ordinance outlines exactly what's expected of excavators to restore conditions of the streets after they've dug them up for repairs or other upgrades. These expectations apply to all excavators, private energy and telecommunications companies, as well as the city's own water and sewer utilities. It dictates not only the standard of all repairs, but also how those excavators need to pay to reimburse San Diego taxpayers for the long-term impacts to the road's structural integrity. It will enhance safety by requiring higher quality resurfacing and tighter time limits for temporary asphalt patches. And it will improve coordination amongst all those projects operating in our right-of-way to reduce repeated work on the same road. This ordinance is in addition to the record amount that we are making available for road resurfacing in the current fiscal year that started on Saturday. A reminder that we've allocated $140 million and anticipate being able to resurface 157 miles of roads in the city in the new fiscal year. My desire is to leave our roads far better than I found them when I took office as mayor, and the street preservation ordinance is an important part of that effort. I hope that it will get council approval next week, and then we can start seeing the benefits of these higher standards quickly for San Diegans. Now, final topic, we have a number of privacy-related items moving forward this month at the City Council, at Council committees, and at the Privacy Advisory Board. On July 18th, the City Council will consider eliminating the grace period for review of surveillance technologies by the Privacy Advisory Board and City Council. That grace period is set to expire on September the 9th, and we have hundreds of important affected technologies still left to be reviewed. Instead of simply extending the grace period, we're asking the City Council to amend the ordinance to eliminate that deadline instead of taking approximately 300 surveillance technologies through the Privacy Advisory Board almost immediately. This will allow for a more thorough and unrushed review of this technology in keeping with the intent of the Privacy Ordinance. On July 19th, the Council's Public Safety Committee will review the Smart Streetlights program, which went before the Privacy Advisory Board last month. These streetlights are an incredibly powerful tool for helping us solve serious crimes and helping us to narrow down the suspects in those crimes. I want to stress how important that these technology is to serving to limit the number of stops by police officers. For instance, if the police has a specific vehicle description and license plate, rather than going with a more vague description or nothing at all, we're able to stop from having to stop everyone who fits that vague description. There have been a number of very important crimes solved, and just as importantly, people exonerated of crimes because of streetlight cameras. In a moment, I'll ask Chief Nislight to speak to the importance of these cameras for his officers' investigative work. The reminder that these are only being used to investigate crimes after the fact. Finally, on July 20th, the Privacy Advisory Board will review the body-worn camera technology and provide its input. These are the cameras that police officers wear, which is an important tool for providing clarity regarding interactions between our officers and the general public. Before I open it up for questions and answers, as I mentioned, I'd like to invite the Chief to talk about smart streetlights and their importance to law enforcement investigations. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor. As the Mayor was just mentioning, video cameras are a part of our daily lives. Every day, people and businesses are filming everywhere, from cell phones and social media to security cameras and surveillance. But your police officers and investigators don't have direct access to that footage. They must work to track down witnesses who have left the scene and might never be found. They might find a security camera only after the video has already been purged or deleted, and when video is found, obtaining that footage can take days or even weeks. This is a delay in justice for victims and their families. It leaves dangerous people on our streets, and it might leave an innocent person in jail. When SDPD had access to smart streetlights previously, we used them in more than 400 serious and violent cases. 100 of those cases would not have been solved if it was not for that footage. Another 100 cases might not have been prosecuted if it was not for the video footage. Smart streetlights helped clear an accused person of charges, like the very first time we used smart streetlights to clear a man of a murder at 5th and Market. In another case, the video brought semblance of peace to an elderly man involved in a fatal collision where his wife was killed. He thought he was responsible for the crash, but the footage showed it was another motorist who ran the red light. Behind each of these 200 cases is a victim of murder, sexual assault, armed robbery, kidnapping, and home invasion. It's not just the victims. It's their families, it's their friends, it's their loved ones, and it's the community that all suffers when these crimes go unanswered. Smart streetlights and automated license plate readers are tools that have proven to be effective in helping solve crimes across the county, or across the country, and again right here in San Diego. Instead of basing our investigation on general information about a person or a vehicle description, we can be laser focused in finding the vehicle, the license plate, or the person based on video footage who had committed the crime. Just yesterday, officers and deputies put an end to a criminal rampage involving a man and a woman who had committed shootings, armed robberies, and carjackings in at least 6 incidents beginning on July 3rd. ALPR, or automated license plate technology, would have given officers the tools to locate the stolen car the suspects were using and put a stop to the violent rampage they were doing. A few things that I want the public to know. San Diego PD does not actively monitor these cameras. It is a reactive tool once a violent crime has been committed. Access to this technology will be restricted to trained personnel, and it will require them to document why they are accessing the information with a case number and ID number. Data not being used for investigation is permanently erased after a specific time. For example, 15 days for streetlight video and 30 days for ALPR data. Also, something the public needs to know: private property is not filmed. There is a masking feature that doesn't even record the portion of the screen that is determined to be private property. I also want to bring you to the San Diego County Grand Jury report that showed SDPD did not misuse this technology when we had previously had access to this, and the grand jury supported in turning these cameras back on. San Diego PD has logged hundreds of hours of staff time working to comply with the surveillance ordinance for all of the technologies. Our teams have responded to over 100 questions from the Privacy Advisory Board, held 9 community meetings, and sat through 3 separate meetings to answer questions related to the Smart Streetlight proposal. San Diego isn't the only city to have a technology advisory board. Just last year, Oakland's Privacy Advisory Commission rejected the proposal for use of license plate readers, but the City Council decided to vote in favor of the use of this technology. San Diego PD and I look forward to bringing this proposal forward to the City Council's Public Safety Committee on July 19th, and we would ask they support and approve this vital public safety technology. Thank you.
Chief, thank you very much. So myself, Chief Nislite, and Mr. Carter here from Homeless Strategy Solutions are available for any question you may have on this or other subjects.
Can you explain a little bit more about how intakes are working at the Safe Sleeping site, and if somebody isn't connected with an outreach worker, how they could potentially get in?
Yeah. James, do you want to field that one?
So as mentioned, with the ramp up of the program, our street-based case managers have a current caseload of unsheltered individuals living on our streets, and they've been connecting with those who have found it difficult to get into congregate shelters. So first, drawing from that street-based case manager caseload. Apart from that, the operator Dreams for Change is working with 211, an intake process where if someone is not connected with the outreach worker, they will be connected with the outreach worker to have the intake process begun for them.
Did I hear correctly that it's two meals per day at the campsites? Who's the food vendor?
Well, it's Dreams for Change is responsible for providing that food.
We are hearing that the city's plans to convert a 140-room motel in Mission Valley.
Mission Valley.
Yeah, Mission Valley is a roadblock. Can you tell us more about it, and or are you going to pursue further pursue?
Sure. I think you're quoting Voice San Diego's reporting.
I'm quoting my same editor wanting it.
I have a strong suspicion they have an internet connection. So they're referring to one of the home key properties that the City Housing Commission has identified for competitive state funding. If we're successful in receiving those state fundings, we would purchase multiple hotels, convert them into permanent supportive housing in order to address our homelessness crisis. The outreach that James was just referring to, leading to shelters, like he was just referring to, ultimately leading to permanent supportive housing, that's this part of that chain. We have been doing our due diligence on multiple properties for many months now in order to successfully compete for these funds. We have submitted an application for 2 separate properties. The property that you're referring to is one that had been identified as a potential option for a home key application. When we did our due diligence, we discovered that there are covenants recorded against that property that prohibit property in that area of Mission Valley being used for affordable housing. We had some conversations with the association that monitors or enforces those covenants, and we did not receive a favorable response when asking if they might consider changing those. The tight deadlines associated with the Home Key program from the state of California means that we would likely miss the application deadline and potentially leave money on the table if we are unable to make those covenant changes. So instead, we are moving forward with 2 other hotel options to apply for in the near future. So that's a total of 4 different properties, all in the Ocean Beach, Midway, Mission Valley, and Kearney Mesa areas. If successful, that would be over $30 million in state funding that will be matched with roughly similar figures from the City of San Diego and our partners, the County of San Diego. If we're successful with all 4 properties, we're talking over 344 units of permanent housing. So that's without the property that you're referring to, but with the 4 others that we are advancing because they have cleared our due diligence and we believe would be suitable for conversion to permanent supportive housing for our unsheltered population.
Follow-up related on that. So, obviously some folks are hearing this news about H.G. Fenton, and they're pretty upset about it. And I've heard that there are people people now staying, unhoused people who are staying in that hotel. Does the city have any plans to pursue that further in the future?
Well, the city will take any opportunity that we can find to increase the amount of supply generally, and particularly affordable housing. The reminder, this is state funding. This is competitive funding for which we want to get our fair share of dollars. If that site or other sites that are identified are available and accessible to us, we'll go after them. Last time we were successful in acquiring home key properties, it was transformational for helping to clear some of our shelters and safe parking lots and being able to move people from those temporary situations into a more permanent situation and on the path to ending their homelessness for good. So we will take any opportunity that we can. This particular site is not viable, at least today. According to the association, they would say that it's never going to be available.
You could take it to court.
Well, Lisa, the pot of money that we're looking at right now has tight deadlines. I believe you've done reporting previously criticizing the city for not availing itself of these applications. We're not going to miss the application. We're going to apply. We're going to get as much as we possibly can and put as many units on the ground as possible. Going back to the previous question, I would note that those are not units years from now. Those are units that we could bring online this calendar year, and that would be very helpful, particularly for folks at our safe sleeping site, at our safe parking lots, and in our shelters.
To be clear, I'm asking even beyond this, there may be additional opportunities. Obviously, you're still going to need more permanent housing.
Right, we will.
Will you pursue this in the future?
The City of San Diego will pursue every permanent supportive housing opportunity that we can find. There are other sites through this process that I believe we initially identified but ruled out, at least for now. We may go back to those if we feel like if the state continues to provide this funding, if we feel as though we can provide a competitive application that is possible. I might draw your attention and ask what other jurisdictions are applying for home key dollars in the county of San Diego. I'll wait for that reporting.
Does this change your deadline at all?
No.
Going back to the 20th and B site,
Mhm.
some homeless advocates I've been talking to seem to think that that's temporary until OLOT opens. Is there any truth to that?
Well, both sites will be temporary. As you know, they are both on parkland. Our city's charter limits non-park uses on non-recreational uses on parkland. So it's our intent for both sites to be temporary. But by temporary, we're probably meaning somewhere between 18 months, 2 years, something like that. As you may have seen in our comprehensive shelter strategy that the Homeless Strategy and Solutions Department presented to the City Council last month, we have a vision for a large homeless services campus at what is known as H Barracks. There's O-Lot and H Barracks. It might confuse your readers, so it sometimes confuses the mayor as well. We don't have the same time limitations on that particular site, but that site is not ready today. Some of the asbestos abatement work is beginning essentially now at H Barracks to try and make it suitable. We've been doing public outreach to affected and adjacent property owners to try and make sure that there's at least awareness of this and hopeful support as a key strategy. But 20th and B and OLOT will both be temporary from the standpoint that it will not be there indefinitely. Again, that's in a reflection in honoring our city's charter. Our temporary use of that is, I think, a reflection of the fact that we have a significant unsheltered crisis. We need to deploy strategies and solutions today. But we have a longer-term strategy that involves H Barracks as well as other opportunities like the current site of our old downtown library as well as the current homeless navigation center on Imperial.
And just to clarify, because OLOT is scheduled to come online
This fall, correct.
and they're saying that come this fall, 20th and B will no longer be operational. Is that true?
That's not our current. That's not our current intention. We have the only hedge you hear there is that we have to find service providers to be partners with us. We know. I think all of you have done reporting about the service provider capacity, workforce, and other issues. But our intention is to have as many safe sleeping sites as possible in order to make sure that we can serve as many folks as possible, meet them where they're at, and graduate them out of homelessness and into housing.
In the week since you announced the
Mhm.
OLOT opportunity, are you still confident you'll be able to make that deadline and that you open by fall?
The fall, yes.
That was-
Yeah. In fact, you may have seen some brush abatements going on in that area. We're making preliminary efforts to get there. We have some more work that needs to be done, and we also, again, have to find a provider. Reminder, this site will be significantly larger than 20th and B, and there are other challenges associated with that site, but even with those challenges, I think our swift deployment of 20th and B is indicative of the fact that we can do that again at OLOT, and then hopefully again at H Barracks, and then at other properties that were identified in the comprehensive shelter strategy.
And on 20th and B, you said that in a week you had 19 individuals take advantage of it, and you're estimating 3 new a day. Is the 3 a day a limit? Are there more people that want to get in and are being turned away, or fewer than only 3 people a day wanting to come in to the site? And 2,
Oh, Tim, that's one.
the second question is, your staff has said that there were shower facilities there. You mentioned the people being sent somewhere for shower. Where exactly are the shower facilities?
Can you answer both? You want to hand? Okay, I'll clean up whatever. I'll clean up. I'll adapt.
So with regards to the 3 per day, that's a plan. I know the first couple of days they were able to enter in 10, and then the following day 5 people got enrolled. So it's the plan. The staffing model is to ensure that the residents there are safe, and again, working with the residents to make sure the program meets their needs and that they remain engaged. With regards to the showers, our street-based case managers always provide transport to services, medical appointments, employment opportunities, laundry, and showers. What our nonprofit provider, Dreams for Change, is doing is leveraging community partnerships to bring mobile showers on site. So they're working through that assessment and want to provide mobile showers on site in addition to transporting folks to showers. There are showers at our Father Joe's campus. There are showers that are provided at a day center operated by some of our partners. So there are existing showers in the community where those street-based case managers take their clients as needed and for any other services that the client needs.
Anyone else? There are none?
You did mention earlier, I saw James nodding a lot over there when you talked about changes that have been made as a result of client feedback. Can you speak more to that?
I mean, I would say that's standard practice for the city. Part of our homelessness strategy is to include the lived experience of folks that we work with, and so that is not unique to 20th and B. But in terms of the specific feedback to the site, you may know better than I what some of that has been. Yeah.
Program manager and operator mainly are working directly with clients.
You probably pick that for the folks at home. Working, the Dreams for Change is working with the clients to solicit that. It's been barely a week, right? Or not even at this point. Is it today Thursday? So it's yeah. And there's just a stand-up. I was chatting with another journalist and explaining the fact that often in this room or on social media, it's very easy to prescribe how these operations should go. That's very different for the people that actually have to do that. The people that need to be there 24/7, 365. From the safety of your iPhone, I'm sure it looks very easy. The reality is this is complex and difficult work. These are human beings that we're talking about who have preferences and choices. That's a part of why we advance this particular solution. As all of you know, the city has not had a safe sleeping site pretty much ever. We had that one temporary thing during the hepatitis A crisis in 2017. But this is a new intervention, and we're certainly open to learning and doing better and trying to create an environment where more folks will want to come off the streets. What I'll remind folks is that the conditions these people are leading are incredibly inferior to the conditions at 20th and B. The situation on Commercial Street, 17th Street, National, parts of 9th, 10th, other parts of our city, the San Diego River, elsewhere, there are plenty of places where there are no shower facilities, where there are no food of any kind, where there is no services being directly provided on site. These are not optimal conditions, and I will remind people that all of that is available at 20th and B. We will replicate it at OLOT, and we'll do it at other places, and we'll use lived experience input of those who have lived on the streets to try and improve those programs, make them more attractive for folks to say yes to our officers' services and get off the sidewalk.
Mayor, I just got new numbers. There's
Sorry.
20 people now at 20.
You all heard that? 20 people? Okay. We got more to go.
And just following up on that, as we're heading into summer, is there any concern? I mean, it's a big open space on asphalt, not a whole lot of cover. What are you guys planning to do?
Well, so we have provided some shade structures. I believe we'll do some more of that. I believe there's an intention to provide additional cover for the individual tents. Reminder: the tents are elevated. There's a tarp on the ground. There's cots within the tents. I believe we have some desire to add misters and other solutions to the site. But Cody, remember, the heat is not just at 20th and B. There's heat on National, there's heat on Commercial, there's heat on Sports Arena Boulevard. You might ask the people in camping on those streets, what's their strategy for heat mitigation?
Well, I have, and they find shade, right? They go under trees, they go under overpasses, right?
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of opportunities like that at 20th and B right now.
First off, so we can make some. There are shade structures that are out there. There'll be more coming as we have more ramped up. But with forgiveness, yes, there are people under overpasses. It's true, but there are also people baking in tents on a commercial street. They're there. They're there with their animals, with their spouses, with their materials, all kinds of stuff. Let's not romanticize what's happening on other streets in the city, acting as if those are cool islands and there's only heat reserved for 20th and B. It's not the case. What's at 20th and B are services, food, showers, water, and the opportunity to get off the street. That ain't on a commercial street. That's why people need to say yes to these services and get into the safe sleeping sites or other shelter facilities.
Speaking of these streets, and you say that you'll say yes, we haven't talked about enforcement.
Mhm.
Are we now wrapping up enforcement? Is the police going to wrap up enforcement now that the facility is available? What's the status on the street, and what's the interaction going to be with folks still not taking advantage of this?
So a couple of we're always doing enforcement, right? It's my expectation, the chief knows this and agrees that we should be enforcing our laws. I think you're asking relative to the recently adopted unsafe camping ordinance, which, as you recall, has a provision in it that says that enforcement of that particular ordinance may start 30 days after the establishment of our first safe sleeping site. A reminder, that's going to be a progressive enforcement model, as we have always used or have used for a long time at the city, with 3 contacts of that individual with offers of services. On that third contact, if the services are denied, there's the potential of a custodial arrest. I want to be clear, that is not our desire. Our desire is for them to accept services, to accept a shelter bed. But in the rare instances where that may be declined, there is that potential. So we are enforcing laws today, but the enforcement of the safe sleeping ordinance will happen toward the end of this month, following the progressive enforcement model. I would remind folks that this is not going to be an overnight thing. We're spending this month having our outreach workers saturate neighborhoods to explain to individuals, particularly where we anticipate doing enforcement first, and that's specifically at parks and at schools, to inform them of this ordinance, to inform them of safe sleeping and other options that are available to them. Simultaneously, we're working to train our officers to make sure they're aware of the unsafe camping ordinances and the safe sleeping site, and then we'll take it from there. This will be an ongoing process, much like 20th and B, where we're going to have to learn as we go and make adjustments as necessary. But ultimately, there's no question that our services are superior to the sidewalk, and I think the people of the city, sheltered and unsheltered, deserve to have safe and hygienic public spaces, and this ordinance is intended to do that. Chief, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that at all.
You pretty much hit it on the head. We do enforcement every single day, but I want to bring back something the mayor said, is look, it's not humane, it's not compassionate to leave folks on the streets and the conditions that they're living in. And so at every single touch point, a San Diego police officer, whether it be San Diego police officer dressed like me, one of our homeless outreach teams, one of our partners, be it a nurse, a social worker, a psychiatrist, they're always offered services first before any enforcement would ever to begin. And so I think people forget this is just an additional tool to help us, and you have to look at it from a balanced attack. We're getting 800 to 900 complaints just through the get it done on a weekly basis, and that's not the radio calls, that's not myself or other staff members going to community meetings and hearing the community complaints. So we have to have that balanced approach, and the city is doing a heck of a job of putting more and more resources out there, and we're going to drive people to those resources, and we are going to enforce our laws.
That's great. So just follow up on that. So just to do the quick math, the last point in time count was from 1806, I think.
Mhm.
If you were successful within these 3 contacts, everybody wanted to take advantage of the services. Where's everybody going to go?
So I think what you're making is an assumption that there has to be a bed for every individual. There just has to be available beds. Reminder that what we've discussed this morning is not the totality of our intended expansions of shelter services, even in this coming fiscal year. We are hoping to bring online the Travel Lodge family shelter. Dave, this month, next? Soon.
July.
Yesterday, Dave. Yesterday. We have other items that we're exploring, the home key sites that we were discussing before. The comprehensive shelter strategy shows a number of other options. There's safe parking lot expansions that we're envisioning. There are a host of interventions. We're going to continue to be relentless in trying to expand those options and make sure that when our outreach workers or our police officers contact an unsheltered individual, that we do have a bed available for them. I think the sad truth of the matter is that most of the times when we contact individuals, they turn us down. And the intent and the hope is that the unsafe camping ordinance provides another incentive for folks to say yes to those services, because we know that once they get into services, we can actually help them end their homelessness overall. Last thing I would say on this point is everything we've talked about today is probably unique to the city of San Diego. And if any of you were at any other city hall in this county, you would not be talking to the mayor, number one. The mayor would not have $200 million in funding for homeless services. They would not be discussing safe sleeping sites, safe parking slots, shelter expansions, home key applications, housing policy expansion. None of that would be happening. And until they do, we're going to continue to have a significant problem. And I hope that the advocacy that all of you bring to your journalism is replicated in those other cities. Because near as I can tell, it ain't happening. And there are encampments, hot zones, other deplorable conditions in all those other jurisdictions, but I don't see a lot of services going on there. Hold me accountable, but hold those other 17 cities and the unincorporated areas accountable as well. Thank you all very much.